Howdy everyone, Michael Majors here for the SCGTour Spotlight. Today I'm going to be playing with top 8 competitor Joshua Cho's Black-White Tokens deck in Modern. By the time that you're watching this, Modern has taken a little bit of a change. As you probably know, Splinter Twin and Summer Bloom have been banned. And while that doesn't directly affect any of the cards in this Black-White Tokens deck, it definitely changes the way the deck is going to be positioned in the metagame a little bit. While I would say that like the big mana strategies like Amulet Bloom are not particularly good matchups for this deck, which is really awesome against all the fair stuff, Splinter Twin is probably something that this deck really wanted to play against. But that being said, let's start. Our opponent is on the play and has kept 7 cards. Our hand is fine. We have a Token Generator and Bitter Blossom, an Auriok Champion, and a Gideon, lands to cast all our spells. Windswept Heath, go. Alright, we've drawn a Thoughtseize. Even though we have Spectral Procession in our deck and this Auriok Champion in our hand, I think it's probably safe just to fetch up our Swamp and play Thoughtseize on turn 1, since we're going to be playing this Bitter Blossom on 2. And I don't want to take a bunch of extra damage if I don't have to. I also have these Flagstones that can search up Godless Shrines, so no reason to get the Auriok Champion into play immediately. So our opponent has a Forest, 2 Voice Resurgence, Scavenging Ooze, Restoration Angel, and a Path. So we're not able to just like break up his voices if we want to go down that route. He is a little ways off casting this Restoration Angel. So if we wanted to like poke a hole in this hand, probably the best course of doing that is either the Scavenging Ooze or this Path. Ooze is alright against us. It can potentially hit like our Lingering Souls if we allow that to happen, but I think we're just gonna get rid of this Path to Exile. That has a potential to like answer our Gideon if we ever wanted to get aggressive with that. It can kill our Auriok Champion, so there's also the chance that he would even want to like Path his own creature if he's not able to like draw out of his mana screw a little bit. But fetches up a Sacred Foundry. As expected, a Voice comes down. Ooh, we drew a Vault of the Archangel. That could be really powerful in this kind of creature matchup in conjunction with our Bitter Blossom, so that's pretty awesome. See if our opponent drew a land. He did a Raging Ravine. That's not something you often see out of like a Naya Company deck, so that's pretty interesting. Usually like Todd Stevens' list, he played a Stirring Wildwoods, I believe, so could be a little bit different. Guess our opponent also has a Restoration Angel, so that's kind of a tip off of it maybe not being like a traditional Naya Company deck. Drew an Arid Mesa for the turn. We're just going to play our Plains and our Auriok Champion. And this is going to be a matchup where Gideon really shines. It's going to be pretty difficult for our opponent to get off the board, I think. The 2/2s are going to be really relevant against his Voices and the Scavenging Ooze he has in his hand, and I think it's just going to be a really big issue, and especially with our Vault of the Archangel. This is kind of where White-Black Tokens thrives, where you and your opponent are kind of just playing fair, honest Magic, playing some creatures. All of our token producers kind of just pummel these solid, efficient creatures that only make one creature. So our opponent's drawn 2 lands in a row. They now have access to the Restoration Angel if they so desire. And it looks like he's just going to leave that up. Pass the turn with the Restoration Angel up. We're not going to block. We're going to fall to 10 life. Not too big of a deal. This is where our champion's going to help to alleviate some of the damage our Bitter Blossom and our opponent's causing to us. We drew a Ghost Quarter, which might be helpful against this Raging Review in the future. Again, because we have this Vault, we're probably not interested in activating it anytime soon because we just want a bunch of mana in play if we can, but we're just going to leave on this Gideon, can't attack into our opponent because he has that Restoration Angel. I think we're just interested in making some Knights to help D up against these voices, so. Going to take a little bit of damage this turn, but on the following turn we will have our Vault active, and I think that's going to start turning things around. So we'll go back to 12. If he does blink his voice, we're going to gain an extra life. I doubt he will. Oh, okay. Free point of life off our Warrior Champion. That's nice. And now all we know is a Scavenging Ooze, so kind of expect that to come down this turn. Ghost Quarter. So we may have some interest in Ghost Quartering our opponent's Ghost Quarter to try to protect our Vault, because I think Vault is going to be a really big deal this game. And this might work out really well. If he animates the Raging Ravine, our Auriok Champion kind of blocks the Raging Ravine and makes it ineffective, and now we can Ghost Quarter our opponent's Ghost Quarter, and our Vault will hopefully stay around. So this is probably one of the best case scenarios for us as far as this turn. Our opponent is also just attacking us, which is pretty interesting, instead of trying to go after our Gideon, for example. Easy block, Warrior Champion Raging Ravine because of the protection from red, and I think I would like to go ahead and trade an ally for the voice, but from here I'm not exactly sure. Again, because we are going to be Ghost Quartering our opponent's Ghost Quarter the following turn, we won't have Vault active. So I'm a little hesitant to take a bunch of damage this turn. I think I want to go ahead and just absorb 3 points from the Restoration Angel and take the 2. The voice trigger is going to give us an additional point of life off the Auriok Champion. And should we draw any relevant spell this turn, I think we're in pretty great shape. Slaughter Pack's not bad. We have to main phase it because of our opponent's voice. So if we were to kill the Restoration Angel on the following turn, we're going to be unable to activate our Vault again. So that's definitely something to consider. I think that's fine though. We probably just want to start clearing out the board as much as possible. Our opponent's Scavenging Ooze, if we kill the Restoration Angel, is going to start giving us the business though, since he'll have 2 creatures to munch on. That'll make it a 4/4. Our Auriok Champion can't deal with it, so that could be problematic. So for sure I'm going to do this. Opponent's probably going to get like a Plains, and this is a really tough choice. So if we just make a 2/2 this turn, we can just like start chumping his creatures. I am pretty afraid of that Scavenging Ooze though, even though we have the Vault. I think it's probably just better to go ahead and start cleaning up the board a little bit. This also makes the elemental a little bit smaller, so some consideration towards that. If we plus our Gideon, we can start getting aggressive, but I think because our plan is just to kind of survive until we get Vault active and going, I think we're just going to make a Knight this turn. I can't afford to hit him for 1 with a fairy token, though. Okay, Birds of Paradise. Now I expect that Scavenging Ooze to come down. We're going to fetch up a Godless Shrine, pay for our Slaughter Pact, and then we'll have like a pretty stable board, and this Gideon will hopefully just go on to dominate, especially with this Vault. Can kind of put him in the Baneslayer Abyss lock with Vault plus Gideon. Just going after me. Because our opponent is just hitting us and he has no resources left, I think I'm just fine taking this hit. We have some life to play with. And every creature is going to be precious with this Vault. Go to 10 life, fetch up a Godless Shrine. Pay for our Slaughter Pact, probably a pretty smart thing to do. Again, this turn we're not going to expose our Vault, just in case our opponent draws a Ghost Quarter. There's another Gideon. So, definitely interested in embleming this Gideon in the future. Might even be a turn where we're able to like double emblem and just get super aggressive, try to turn the corner. I kept the wrong flagstones. Whoops. I'm just gonna go ahead and get the Godless Shrine, I guess. And I think we can just go ahead and hit for 2 in the air again. Things are looking good. This is kind of the position you want to be in with this tokens deck. Just kind of dominating the battlefield. Scavenging is probably going to grow to a 4/4, which is something to be a little concerned about, I suppose. A little surprised my opponent hasn't tried to just like attack our Gideon down, because then that would force us to chump block, which I think is a better situation for him. But what'd you draw? This like might be, yep, Raging Ravine activation, no big deal. Again, Auriok Champion's just gonna hold back the creature land indefinitely. So if our opponent attacks like this, we do have the option of trying to double block Scavenging Ooze with our 2 Knight ally tokens. Which, to be honest, there's not too much that can go wrong. Even if we were to get Lightning Bolted or Pathed or whatever, it's probably fine. We're going to untap, we're going to have this Vault, and then 3 Fairy tokens to kind of, and a Knight ally to kind of cover our bases. So I think this is fine. So we traded as desired, and now I think we're firmly in the driver's seat. Ooh, intangible virtue, wow. Does that change our plan? Yeah, I think we're just gonna start getting aggressive now. Go ahead and cash this in for an emblem. Play our other Gideon. Because we're not presenting lethal this turn, and we're going to have lethal next turn no matter what, I don't think there's any reason to go ahead and emblem that for extra damage. I think we can just make a knight hit for 6 in the air. And our opponent probably doesn't have too many good outs. Yep. So even though we kind of like based our entire plan around that Vault of the Archangels, we never ended up activating it, which is a little awkward, but things worked out fine. So here for the sideboard, Warrior Champion was pretty good that game. It gave us a really nice life cushion. We didn't have to like trump block with our tokens as aggressively. Made our Bitter Blossom not kill us, so even though it's not the greatest against the green creature decks, I think it's solid. I'm definitely interested in this Worship. I assume our opponent probably has some like Kasali Pride Mages or other ways to remove artifacts and enchantments, but since we have these Bitter Blossoms already and these intangible virtues, those kinds of effects are usually pretty taxed anyways, so happy to board in this Worship. As far as our other options, I'm not really sure what else we want to bring in. Again, this is just kind of one of those, I don't want to say ideal matchups or whatever, but this is pretty good for us. We're just like, locked in a creature battle on the ground. We have a bunch of token producers, some ways to break parity, some planeswalkers that are powerful, so I think we're probably cool just to board out a Ghost Quarter on the draw. This deck plays 26 lands, which is definitely high for even for this archetype, so I think I like boarding out a Ghost Quarter on the draw a lot. But I don't think we're going to need these Fulminator Mages, and kind of the rest of our sideboard is just this very like targeted anti-combo and like Affinity and Tron and big mana kind of stuff, so I think we're just going to board in the Worship. This hand is a little slow, but it's got some powerful stuff. I got a Lingering Soul, Spectral Procession, a Murderous Cut for removal, that Vault of the Archangel that may actually end up being awesome this game, so I think it's fine. We're going to keep. We're not at too much risk of just like getting run over in this kind of matchup, so. Tell Reinforcements is definitely an awesome draw. Even if our opponent is able to put a bunch of pressure on us, that can help to stabilize the board. I do want to note that we probably have interest in fetching up basics. Hard to say whether our opponent has a Blood Moon, but I've definitely seen some lists that play like Magus of the Moon and stuff like that, so something we should keep in mind. Looks like our opponent is about to miss their second land drop, but they did play up Birds. Go ahead and fetch up a basic Plains and play this Bitter Blossom we drew. And for our opponent to keep a 7 with 1 land under Birds, kind of makes me think they've got a bunch of powerful cards, but a Wall of Omens. Maybe this is actually Jeff Hoogland's Kiki Court deck. Didn't see a lot of those elements in game 1, but we did see a Restoration Angel, and that's kind of a big part of this archetype, so more likely to be Kiki Cord than Collected Company for sure after seeing this Wall of Omens. So we do want to be cognizant of getting comboed out. Go ahead and fetch up a Swamp, and I think we can go ahead and cash in our Timely Reinforcements while we have the opportunity to do so. Another Birds of Paradise. So again, this vault's going to probably prove to be pretty awesome in a game like this, where our opponent's kind of turtling up behind these like Wall of Omens and Voice Resurgences and other like grindy creature effects. Well, we just have like a horde of 1/1, so since we have this Murder's Cut to kind of like cover us against the Kiki combo, I think we're in pretty good shape. Looks like a chord in our upkeep, which is pretty interesting. Can do it for 3, so he can't get like a Restoration Angel for his Wall of Omens. Based on our opponent's timing, I think it's probably fair to say that we are getting Orzhov Pontiffed, but don't think there's anything we can do about it. He also didn't catch our Spectral Procession we're going to play this turn, so that's pretty nice. But yeah, this Orzhov Pontiff's definitely pretty powerful against our deck. Drew a Path for the turn, not bad. Just gonna go ahead and play the Spectral Procession this turn. Still not feeling too bad about things, all things considered. Certainly, like, in effect, like a Zealous Persecution or even like Day of Judgment or whatever would be pretty awesome, but those elements are not present in Josh's list. He was definitely interested in kind of targeting the combo and big mana decks that he thought he had worse matchups against, which is understandable. Attacking with just a Voice Resurgence. I don't really want to give my opponent like a 6/6 or whatever, and my 22 life not really hurting, so even though we could have the opportunity to like allow us to play Path or Murderous Cut on his turn without enabling the elemental trigger, I think this is still fine. So there's definitely opportunities for, yeah, this looks like he's trying to go for like a Restoration Angel on our Orzhov Pontiff, or his Orzhov Pontiff rather. So probably just want to go ahead and Path the Pontiff. Worth noting, if our opponent had done this on his turn, then if we wanted to respond to this, then they would have received an elemental token. So as it were, we don't have all of our tokens removed for the second time. Our opponent has Restoration Angel in play and drew an Inquisition, not bad. I think we definitely kind of want to get an idea of what's going on over there. 2 chords and a Path to Exile, wow. Okay. So we're definitely taking one of the chords. We're basically forced to leave up cut mana because of the chord. We could choose to attack here and go ahead and cut the Restoration Angel, and what that will allow us to do is first of all get aggressive, but it turns off our opponent just playing a chord during their turn and for Kiki Jiki and them getting an elemental token, so I think that's probably in our best interest, since I think we're going to be basically forced to do this regardless. This does open up a line of like chord into Eternal Witness, get back Restoration Angel, resto the Eternal Witness, and kind of just like set up this really long-winded value chain, but I think our best hope at fighting that at this point is just to get as aggressive as possible, so kind of want to force the action. Take another hit from this voice resurgence, no big deal. Just saying go here kind of leads me to believe that maybe they play a second copy of Warzov Pontiff, which is not something I think we can even really beat, to be honest. Gideon was an awesome draw, since we can, if we so desire, we can go ahead and cash it in for an emblem and just hit our opponent for 8, chop their life total in half. Let's see. So the last 2 cards in their hand are Path to Exile and the Court of Calling. There's some way for them to set up Resto Kiki. We're dead regardless. I think we're just going to go ahead and attack first. And if for some reason they have a second Pontiff or some other effect like that that kills all our tokens, we're not just going to get time walked by playing our Gideon and cashing it in. In this way we can just play Lingering Souls, flash it back, and then the following turn play Gideon Emblem and go for lethal. Court of Calling X equals 4. This might just be a Restoration Angel. Yep, target this Wall of Omens, try to either hit a Kiki or the 4th chord, just kill us on the spot. Now worth noting, if our opponent blocks, I think we're just going to go ahead and activate our Vault and kill the Restoration Angel. And that can severely limit their outs. Although I guess if we do this and our opponent just paths the spirit that we blocked, then that's really bad for us, since we eat up our whole turn. Yeah, now that I think about it, I think it's just way more important that we try to set up lethal for next turn. I don't see any reason why they wouldn't just path their token, so. Go ahead and play Lingering Souls, flash it back, and brace for impact. Alright, Voice Resurgence, so now we know every card in our opponent's hand, so we're safe. Voice is going to hit us. And when we cash in our Gideon Emblem, can block a token, path a token, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Looks like exactly lethal by my calculations. Ooh, and even drew a path for good measure. Alright, emblem that. Path our opponent's Resto. And we should be good to attack for lethal damage, so. I was able to dodge a couple draws there. Definitely a close game. Oh, I'm stupid. Our opponent can just jump off a Bird's Paradise. Yep, didn't even think about that. Alright, so they do have one more turn. So that Path to Exile was actually an awesome draw since it got to clear our opponent's Restoration Angel and put us not at risk, but I'm ignorant to Birds of Paradise flying ability. That being said, I think we're still in a pretty commanding position here, especially when our opponent's just jumping away their entire board position almost. But my apologies. Alright, we're still able to win the match though.